close your eyes for a minute and imagine you're standing in front of an empty lot in a nice neighborhood, and it's going to be yours. You're going to own it. You can build whatever you want on that lot. Tell me what that looks like.
The first thing I imagined was actually the outdoor space, because that's something that's really important to me. And having, maybe some privacy outside, or at least a little green area.
It would be a very tiny house. It would be eco-friendly. It would be probably out of materials that are easily sustainable, like bamboo.
One floor, that's our playroom for playing ping pong and darts and other games and activities that we like to do with each other and our friends.
Maybe like a garden, a town garden. I like personally I like gardens and like anything from nature.
There would be a slip and slide out of a window that drops 20 feet into a pool.
I'd probably put some Connex boxes on there because I just sort of like that trend that's happening right now.
A lot of space, just for couches, maybe a fireplace.
One whole wall where I could keep my books, places for my files.
I would prefer a smaller house, one that is run on sustainable energy, whether that some maybe solar power.
What do you mean by what would it look like?
On the outside. What kind of house does it?
Just a regular house, small house.
Can you tell me about what you like and don't like about where you currently live in your current home?
I don't. I live at the McDonald House, and it's public housing, and
And what's that like?
It's like it's not very private. You know what I mean? Like you can't even go into a building without seeing about 8 people, and you can't go out of the building without seeing about 8 people, and it's just not comfortable.
There's a lot of light in my home that comes in during the day, which I really like. There's an open space with my dining table and my kitchen, and it's an older home from the 1800s, and I at least like the style of the home.
I actually live on the second floor of a house. It's a 3-family. My boyfriend lives on the top floor. It's kind of small, but we make it work. It's just me, my mom, and her boyfriend, and my dog. So it's not a bad place, but it's a small place. I like it because you get to know your neighbors better. But I also don't like it because you can hear, like my landlord, she lives downstairs. She has a daycare going, so we hear like little crazy kids just like banging on things, like screaming every morning. That's what I wake up to. So it is there's a disadvantage to that, but it's also kind of cool because you just your neighbors, and I don't see that enough these days, So, yeah.
When you put on your coat, then you give me that look. I get a burning in my body, baby. I get a burning in my body, baby. Oh, when you laugh like that.
Where I currently own a condo, and I really love it. It's in an old Victorian house. The house was built in 1863, and there are lots of things that I like about it. And it has a lot of what I'm looking for. It has a nice big kitchen, has a cozy feel to it. It's an older house. It's got slanted ceilings and old hardwood floors. So I really love that aspect of it. What I dislike is that I have no yard. I don't have any outdoor space. I live on a busy street, so there's a lot of traffic noise and that kind of thing.
I live right here in Northampton, literally around the corner from where we're shooting. And we rent a really awesome New England house that was built in the 1920s or something. But it is such a waste of resources as far as heating it.
I really like this area because of the older housing that's here. I don't really like the complexes that are the cookie cutter type houses. I like going down a street and having each and every house be completely different. And so for me personally, that's what I'm drawn towards. Like being in an area such as that and having a house that does not look like a cookie cutter, or a house architecturally that is different from what anyone's ever seen. That's appealing to me.
I feel the moonlight, I feel the high tide, wake up the sea light, wake up the sea.
I live in a house, like an apartment. A house has been like divided into apartments over on 66, and it's pretty big. It's, you know, and it was $850 a month, which is about as low as I could get rent around here, which is doable. And it's not like, I was looking at a lot of other apartments around that price point that were a lot worse. So I like it because it wasn't those. Again, a lot of the places I went to, I was looking at was just like, it was a room with everything in it and then a closet and then maybe like a bathroom if you were lucky.
Do you feel like we have the kinds of houses you want to see here, or would you like to see something different?
So
I don't want to see anything different.
You don't want to see anything different. So the kind of community that we have a lot of people that are on the streets, right? Like sleeping on the streets?
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of really expensive here. So it's really hard to find housing that you can afford if you don't have a lot of money.
Okay.
I think it would be awesome if there was more housing like that around here.
Be more specific. What do you mean?
Low-income housing, because there's only a certain kind of population that can really live here in Northampton and survive, and some more affordable housing would be good.
I mean, it's interesting. The houses here were often built in triple-deckers, like in Worcester, for 3 families. So it was the grandparents would live on the first floor, the family and children would live on the second floor, and then the children, when they became adults, would live on the top floor. So it's interesting. I lived in a triple-decker in Worcester, and you could easily get 3 different families now in those triple-deckers. And we don't have that kind of housing in Western Mass. These are single family, big garden, big land areas. In some ways, we need to go back to that old 18th century model.
The average size of a house in 1973 was 1,660 square feet. That was in 1973. By 2007, it was 2,600. So we went into the starter mansion period. And that was, the period in which everything was getting bigger and bigger.
I think people design houses according to a a kind of 19th century Victorian idea of how people lived. And that was, you had a parlor where you entertained. And of course, the women weren't supposed to work. They did housework, but they weren't expected to be writing novels or doing freelance writing or anything. They would look after the children or something like that. And if you were rather upscale Victorian, I guess you had a nanny who looked after your kids. Life has changed tremendously since then. And so, but we still sort of design our houses that way.
I guess my dream home, really, would be a passive house, hermetically sealed. It's climate controlled by just, the structure of itself, the doors and the windows and things like that. I would love to have some solar panels on there. I would like to be off the grid as much as possible. A gray water system even, like I would love to go full on, if given the opportunity, the time and the money, I would definitely build that.
We should have our own houses, probably closely knit together, so we still have that sense of community and neighborhood kind of connection, because we don't have that anymore.
I remember I had a discussion with another fellow, and he said basically what you find a lot of is people don't want to be the odd one. There's this built-in fear of being separate. So when you look at a house, everyone says, well, yes, they go to federal style, colonial style, because it's what you've seen. It may not be what you really want. And it seems that we have to have that discussion with our clients, is that, this is what you've seen, okay, but what do you want? What do you want your space to function as? And then when you start, doing that whole breakdown like we did in college of what you want, what you see, what you experience, what you feel, what you see, put all those experiences together, lump them together, put them in a box, shake them up, and then, okay, what is the strongest one you feel like? And you start pulling the stronger ones out, and you have these components you can then mold them into something.
I'm from Virginia, and they have been now in the suburbs reconstructing these kind of fake towns that are almost, they have all these little, boutique-y shops and stuff, but what they really want is these New England towns that are sort of organic towns that have different populations in them, that are more diverse. I think it's kind of interesting to see that some states are now actually trying to reconstruct that, and it's all around walking. It's all around people living close, smaller homes, smaller units. People are having less kids. I think that's kind of where we're going. Can we react fast enough, to meet people's needs? I don't know. I think the states that are going to have the economic benefit and the population benefit. Students will move to those places where they can afford housing.